There's always a man, there's always a city, there's always a lighthouse.
Now would you kindly head to Ryan's office and kill the son of a...
Let's go out to play, Daddy.
Go back to the Sodom from which you came!
It's time to finish this.
Catch!
That'll do. Elizabeth!
You're watching the GameSpot Co-op stage, sponsored by LEGO Star Wars: The Force Awakens.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the GameSpot Co-op stage here at E3. I am your host, Chris Waters, here to kick off an excellent segment of discussions with these fine folk sitting with me on the couch to my right. Let's go down the line and introduce them. First, we have Andrea Renee.
Hello.
Andrea, welcome to the stage.
Thank you so much for having me. A very exciting E3 2016.
Busy E3 for you so far.
Yeah, I've been doing a few things.
All right, excellent. And now we've got iJustine down the line.
I'm so excited. It's been so much fun so far.
Pretty good show, huh?
Yeah.
And on the end, Jeff Kanata.
Yeah, this is awesome. What an amazing group of people I get to hang out with and talk fun games.
It's very cool. You've got a bunch of different folks to chat with up on this stage here, Jeff.
I have. But don't tell them this is my favorite.
Well, I know now, so you just gave up the secret.
All right. Today's discussion, or at least the first of our many discussions today, will be how do you sell VR to a non-believer? On our couch, we have one person who tried a lot of VR. She did not like VR until very recently. We'll get to that first, but Andrea, let's talk about your experiences with VR up until your recent Game Changer.
Okay, sure. So I've been testing and demoing VR like a lot of other games press for a couple of years, starting with the early prototypes of the Rift from Oculus, and then getting into Morpheus and Vive. So I've done all different kinds of experiences over several different iterations. That's very promising, and I've spoken at length with Jeff on his podcast, DLC, about how I don't quite get it. Mm-hmm. It's like he calls it magical, and I was like, I don't need that in my life. Like
She hates magic, everybody.
Oh, no. I don't hate magic. For me, it was something that it seems the barrier to entry was so high, and there wasn't an experience to me that said this is why I need it. Because after like 10 minutes with the headset on, I was like, I just want it off.
Yeah.
And for me, when I sit down for a long gaming session, we're talking like 6 hours, 7 hours, I can never imagine doing that with the headset on.
Comfort is a big factor. And
Yeah.
we'll talk about more of the barriers in just a sec, but first I want to get Justine and Jeff, I want you guys to talk about your sort of general stance on VR as it stands now.
Oh, I mean, I love it.
Yeah.
I remember even doing a demo when it was like one of the first Oculus versions. It was like duct taped together. I was like, is this safe to even put on? And using that, it's something that you do have to get used to. Even like I think we all remember Google Glass, but like even that process of getting used to wearing something, you have to ease into it, because I did a couple demos here and I got really motion sickness because it's something that affects you physically and mentally, and it confuses the hell out of your body. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm not standing in front of a person right now. I'm actually safe sitting in my room, but I think that is going to be kind of interesting, especially for people who might not be that aware of their surroundings, and now they're in this crazy world. But I think what really sold it for me was, I think it was maybe a year and a half ago, I did one of the Vive demos, and I was like, this is awesome.
And
like,
that was it?
I really do see this. And even doing some of the demos here, I mean, it just really kind of takes you into this whole other level. And playing with your friends, but in VR,
Yeah.
I'm over.
Social in VR is going to be
yes. Real life, over it.
So it was at this very event, I think, 3 years ago, that there was this like murmur around the show floor that upstairs in one of the meeting rooms, there was this company, Oculus. You heard about them on Kickstarter, but they had a demo here, and you have to try it, Jeff. You have to try it. And I was like, okay, well, let's see if I can get in. It was like everybody was talking about it. They weren't taking appointments. It was just this like the thing that everybody was like, oh my God, you got to go there. So we go up there, we get in. And the guys who make that crazy MMO Eve, they cobbled together this demo in like 2 months, and it has nothing to do with being an MMO. It's like this, just try it. We put it on, and I'm in the cockpit of a spaceship, and I look down, and there's my body, and I move my head, and my body moves, and then the spaceship launches, and I'm in space, and I was like, it's over.
That's it.
We're here. We've done it. We achieved the thing I always dreamed of.
Like, I feel like I need to be able to see my hands and my feet and to actually feel like I'm in it. Like, that was the first thing ever, even trying Oculus. I'm like, I can't see the rest, and it's not all matching up. So I think that also really messes with your mind a lot.
Well, Oculus is showing a recoil at their booth, and it's a very simplistic sort of a Tron throw things back and forth. It's almost like human foosball, where you like move your body in front of a goal to try to block things and then throw them back and forth. And it has full body IK.
I love it.
Based on the touch controllers and your headset, it can map your entire body, including your legs. So if you squat down, your legs actually squat down. It's
really cool.
amazing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Jeff, I can infer from context, but what does IK stand for? I don't know that.
Inverse kinetics? I can't remember. What it exactly stands for.
Somebody
It means-
tweet us, let us know.
It means that they built a full skeleton, that if you move this, the rest of the skeleton moves as well.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
there's
Aesthetics?
also-
What is it called? I don't know.
That's another thing that's kind of scary too, like on the Vive. You've got this huge cord that's kind of like hanging off the back of your head. So unless somebody else is in the room making sure you're not going to like kind of trip over that, there's a lot of hurdles that they still have to go over.
This
It's
is
still
what
early.
I'm saying.
Yeah, I
It's
built an
too
apparatus in my house,
complicated.
guys.
Yeah, but it's so
But you had to build an apparatus.
Dude, I hacked an IKEA lamp and turned it into
It
a
basically
holder.
looks like a
He's so
fishing
proud of
pole
this.
now. You look like the fish dangling on the hook playing VR.
The
Bernie
most awesome
Burns,
fish.
he told me to get a really high tripod and just mount the things on it.
That's cool too. Yeah,
Yeah.
it totally would work.
All right, so we've talked about some of the sort of stumbling blocks. It made you really sick, Justine. It's not comfortable to wear an HMD on your head for a long time, and not to mention the fact that you get like Oculus face.
Exactly.
That lasts for a long time. That doesn't go away immediately. But so these were some of the reasons. Also, the experiences so far in terms of games we've seen for VR, Eve Valkyrie is an exception. Most of the stuff is much smaller in scale. So it seemed, Andrea, like you were saying that the experiences weren't quite justifying all the expense and all the hoopla around it.
Yeah, that's what my biggest complaint about VR was, that it's not only is it expensive, it's difficult to set up in a lot of cases, it's difficult to use. So in order to overcome all of that, you'd have to have an amazing piece of software. It doesn't necessarily have to be a game. It can be an experience. I think some of the most interesting virtual reality experiences are just that. They're not a game. They're, the underwater demo that we've seen on a couple different platforms was really neat. I keep going back to that one.
The blue.
Yeah, exactly. And other things like that to me were a very unique thing. And there just wasn't that one thing until today.
Until today.
Until
All right.
today.
Andrea finally had her moment with VR.
I had my moments.
Give it to us. What do you got?
So at the PlayStation press conference on Monday night, Rocksteady and Warner Brothers unveiled Batman Arkham VR. And everyone in the audience, of course, was like, oh my God, Rocksteady's still working on Batman.
Yeah.
So I managed to sneak my way into a demo room earlier today. Thank you, Warner Brothers, for fitting me in. And it blew my mind.
Okay.
I was not ready. And I think a lot of it also has to do with holding the controllers. And I know Vive has them and Oculus now has the touch controllers. And I think that without them, holding a traditional controller breaks the immersion for me. Holding each hand and seeing Batman's gloved hands, putting on the cowl, and
Take the cowl and you put
Put
it
it
on your
on.
face. And then there's a mirror. And then you're like, I'm Batman.
I danced.
it out.
I
Check it out.
danced in the mirror. It was so it was so fun, and you are put into this detective scenario where someone has been killed. I'm not going to say spoilers, and you have to figure out what happened. And so
Okay.
in the Arkham games with the detective mode, you can rewind and kind of highlight something and reconstruct what happened in the scene. You're doing that in the world. You're walking up to it. You're rewinding it in real time and living through the cutscene.
Okay.
And it was
And it's all around you.
it's
and
amazing.
You're physically manipulating things. And anytime you want, Chris, you can pull out a Batarang from your belt and throw it. That's anytime you want.
Okay, that's pretty cool.
That's the dream.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I didn't get a chance to do that demo, but I did do the Resident Evil one, and that's where I felt a little sick after it because
You are so brave. I will not even attempt to
Yeah.
do the Resident
No
Evil
way.
VR
Think
demo.
about it. Well, the demo was so awesome though. I mean, I was so involved in this whole story, to the point where one of the guys that was standing next to me that was talking and we're having a good day. He got too close to me. I was actually uncomfortable because I was I can feel him next to me, and it was just really cool because you really do feel like you're there, which is almost terrifying because every little thing, I was super scared. And this was only the demo, so I can't even imagine what it's actually
that
going to
was
be
being
like.
played with a controller, right? You were with
That was with the controller, and I think that also was something that kind of made me a little bit nauseous is because I was moving the controller and moving my head really, really fast. So I think when you do first jump into these things, you have to take it slow. And I jumped in full speed ahead. I was going around running like an idiot. So I think that's something that is going to be a huge barrier, is like how much can you handle and how do you work into it?
Well, I got a chance to play the Fallout 4 demo
You did?
on the Vive, yeah. And the way they get around the nausea factor is a way that a lot of games that are currently available on Vive do it, which is teleportation. So you're teleporting very short distances, and there's something, for whatever reason, the brain doesn't get bothered when you sort of flash to something, as long as it doesn't smooth movement, that flash. But then I played Farpoint over at the Sony booth. I don't know if you guys have tried that yet, but it's a full-on first-person shooter, and it's got that new gun peripheral.
Yeah.
And there's a thumbstick on the gun peripheral, and you move that, and I was not nauseated at all. Strafing was a little bit squoogey, but you get over it pretty quick, and it's amazing. Like, I'm in a first-person shooter, full-on excellent first-person shooter, shooting stuff, moving quickly.
I think it's all like how you kind of go with it.
It's not here yet.
I'm
here.
into it. It's here.
Technically, yes, it's here at E3.
Well, I think that's been the hard part too. That barrier to entry. There hasn't been content. It hasn't been easy to get the headsets. It hasn't been easy to set them up. So I think this is sort of the year where it will eventually be critical mass, where everyone's like, oh yeah, I got one. Come on over.
I'm telling you guys, I went and saw the Call of Duty demo, and I've seen a couple of other, Dishonored and stuff, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, we've spent so long with these games trying to create a feeling of being a first person, and like when they fall, you see the hand come up, or a guy raises his wrist, and they're trying so hard to give you that feeling of being there, and I'm like, in 5 years, none of these games are going to be on a 2D surface. None of them.
You don't think there's going to still be a market for
No,
first-person
see,
games?
this is where I really
with a
disagree with
controller and
him.
TV? Yeah, I'm with Andrea
No,
here.
like,
It may not, maybe 5 years is ambitious, but at a certain point, it'll seem ridiculous that you're looking at
No,
it.
I wholeheartedly disagree with you on that. I do, because it's still way too easy and convenient to just, like, if I'm playing a game, the doorbell rings, I put my controller down, I walk over there. If you're in VR, first you probably won't even hear the doorbell ring.
That's true, you won't.
Think about people with kids, people with pets, people with roommates, like... I don't think it'll ever be this magical world that you think it's going to be. I think 2D is always going to be a thing.
You double-click the Vive, and all of a sudden I see that front-facing camera's view, and I can deal with things.
Yeah, but you're still tethered. You're still tethered to your PC.
In 5 years, we won't be tethered.
Exactly. Honestly, but I love the augmented reality. So I know we haven't heard anything about HoloLens at all, but that was one of the things that really kind of like, this is it. Like, you're still living in this world. You can turn it on and off like the Vive, but like having the world around you sort of feel like it's something different.
Yeah.
I love it.
Well, we're different degrees of sold on the couch, even though Andrea's had that moment where, VR is the thing. It works, but maybe not in your household just yet.
Yeah.
Where are you on this one?
Yeah.
I have really enjoyed some VR experiences. My favorite, personally, honestly, has been the experiences of just being underwater. Just those experiences, like watching a blue whale go by. Like, those transportative moments, not even the game-specific ones have been the best for me, but of the game-specific ones, I mean, the Vive with the hand controllers, the Oculus Touch stuff, you got to have the hands, like you were saying earlier, just
need it.
Now, my last question for you guys, as we sort of come to the end of the segment, is we saw VR on stage at the Sony press conference, at the Ubisoft press conference. People are trying to sell VR. Of course, the inherent issue is you have to see it to believe it, right? But putting that aside, what do you think companies have done right, or what do you think they are not doing well in order to sell their VR at E3?
Well, I think one of the things they're doing right is letting people try it. And you're hearing about a lot of these initiatives of, we're going to be in a Best Buy, we're going to be in a truck touring around the country, letting people try it. And as you said, seeing is believing. And I think the more people that have an experience where they're like, oh, I get it now, they tell two friends and they tell two friends, and I think really that's going to be the selling point, but also having experiences like Batman and Star Wars that sound cool. It's one thing for me to talk about how there's this amazing game called Io Moon where you're in this pod and you're traveling through space. It's like, okay, but it's like, no, you put Batman's head on and now you're Batman. It's like, now that I want to do,
Yeah, I mean, it has to be those real life experiences where you actually do try it, because until you do, you don't have any concept of what that feeling is like of being transported somewhere else. I mean, you're still in your body, but you're not. really is so hard to explain. So, I mean, even things as simple as like Google Cardboard, it's so simple and so easy, but you can still sort of get that small taste of like what it's sort of like.
How do you feel when you see, for example, a bunch of people on the Ubisoft stage, they're all wearing the headsets and they're doing this? And
That
they're
was
playing,
hysterical.
They're playing a game
I loved
like,
it.
Yeah, do you like that?
I mean-
kind of presentation?
I think that realistically, like, I mean, no one's going to be probably watching you and your friends, but that's such a like cinematic experience having that many people playing VR at the same time. I know that a lot of people on Twitter got really angry right away, like, what's that, like a $6,000 setup between all those people with their PCs and their headsets all playing Star Trek together? Like, how realistic is it that you have that many friends who are all like VR equipped?
I mean, in the future, it's going to be so much cheaper. So it is. I mean, that is going to be the next step. I mean,
But what is cheaper though? Just curious, like, because gaming now has been around for several decades.
Yeah.
But it's still not cheap to be a gamer.
No,
Very
but
true.
you know, you don't necessarily have to have 4 of stations in your house. You know, if your friend buys one, or you even if it has good matchmaking.
Yeah.
I don't know. You say I look silly doing this.
Yeah, you
maybe,
look like
but,
an idiot.
But is this
It's
cool?
great.
That's fair. That's fair.
I am not one of these self-conscious VR people. At the GameSpot office, we put googly eyes on the outside of all our headsets just because, like, yeah, look, you're going to look goofy. You might as well look extra goofy doing it. But I do think that what the companies did well this year was show those experiences, that the Batman thing, the X-Wing thing, like the Resident Evil, the fact, and talking about Fallout, which is a full game you're going to be playing in VR. I think they're coming more around to, okay, we're at a point where we have games, full-on games that we can put in VR, and that's what's going to sell it, because we are selling this to gamers after all.
And it's not like they were just trying to sell us short stuff. I honestly believe that there's so much that designers have had to go back to ground zero and reinvent very basic parts of how games work in order to make them work in VR. And we're just at a time frame where we're finally catching up to, they've had enough time to make bigger experiences now. So it's really going to ramp up hockey stick style, and we're going to have awesome stuff in like just a few months. It's such an exciting time.
I'm so excited.
Yeah,
For sure.
High five.
Andrea, still holding out?
I'm still holding out. No, Batman was great. I
Yeah.
loved it.
What's
but
gonna
I'm still holding
make
out.
it for you, do you think? Is it gonna be a flight experience, or is it gonna be something
No.
you can't
That
even
sounds like I will
imagine?
throw up right away. You know, I don't know. I always told people, like, when VR first was announced, a couple years ago, the first thing I immediately went to was, like, if they make Skyrim VR, I'm done. You know,
Yep.
but I don't know. Like, obviously that's not happening. They're working on the
Telling you, Elder
remastered.
Scrolls
Well,
6.
you know,
gonna be
Bethesda's
VR.
got
Telling
Doom
ya.
in VR. They're gonna get Fallout in VR.
That's a real possibility. So maybe then, maybe in like what will that be? Like 2020? You think?
Yeah, it's not near, but still, it's so exciting.
It's coming. The VR, whether it's here or whether it's coming, folks, VR is a part of our gaming life, and it's great to chat with you all and get your perspectives on it. We will be back live in just a moment, folks, talking about Call of Duty Infinite Warfare. Don't go away.